F1 drivers threatening to retire after newly announced rules. Formula One is looking to implement new rules. Most revolve around the sprint races and expanding the calendar. The sport's growing nature is pushing race organizers to add more spectacle. The drivers are not fond of this. Now, we're looking at a situation where the number of sprint races could increase. The reverse grid is being considered, and the calendar may expand to over 25 races from 2026. Will these changes help the sport or make it less entertaining? Formula One is looking to implement new rules. Most revolve around the sprint races and expanding the calendar. The sport's growing nature is pushing race organizers to add more spectacle. The drivers are not fond of this. Now, we're looking at a situation where the number of sprint races could increase. The reverse grid is being considered, and the calendar may expand to over 25 races from 2026. Will these changes help the sport or make it less entertaining? It's safe to say that fans will resist the new changes discussed by Stefano Domenicali. The drivers won't be happy either, especially Max Verstappen. While he praised the efforts to separate the sprint race from Parc Ferme, he opposes increasing the number of sprint races. There's no need for it. But Domenicali is pushing for a total of 8 sprint races, up from 6. That would add 16 points to be gained. With close competition, this change could shift the grid's order. Domenicali said that the change we've introduced this year is good for many reasons. With separate qualifying in Parc Ferme, the flow is much better. We can't be like MotoGP with a full calendar of sprint races, but there's room to grow. Maybe 1/3 of the calendar could be sprints. A big question mark surrounds the addition of 2 more sprint races. We have a massive new fan base from Drive to Survive. They are hooked on the drama and fighting, not pure racing. What the audience wants, they should get. There's also a question about the reverse grids, which Domenicali has discussed. It seems we may implement something that is regular in Formula 2 during their sprint events. It's questionable to add this rule to a competitive sport like Formula 1. Overtaking is now much harder, and faster drivers would be punished by being demoted to P10 or P8. They would have to climb back up to gain points in the sprint race. On the other hand, a driver who finishes P10 in qualifying would start P1. If nothing crazy happens in their 100-kilometer race, they would earn 10 points. That's equal to a P6 finish in the regular race. This is huge for lower-tier or struggling teams. Hamilton mentioned that while he favors reverse grids, many drivers would go slow to start the sprint race first. Hamilton said, "Saturday is not the greatest of days, but I like the single practice session into qualifying. I think we can learn. I love that we have a different format rather than just the same 3 practice sessions and the race. The best sprint race I ever had was when I started last in 2021 in Brazil. So I'm in favor of the reverse order, except if we had that, everyone would try to qualify last." This was before the sprint and Parc Ferme were separated. Nevertheless, Domenicali seems to favor this rule. He believes that teams won't use dirty tactics. If they follow the current F2 pattern, a driver who finishes 10th on Friday would start 10th on Sunday. It would compromise their race more than they might think. Risking a bad race for a sprint win might not be worth it for the fastest drivers. However, it would make sense for drivers in the midfield battling for points. On the reverse grids, Domenicali said, "Why not? They are a lot of action, overtaking, and fighting for points. Some say it's a fake way of racing. There is nothing fake about what you believe is the right format to produce great action. So, I would be interested in discussing that again." Now, changes are also focused on the calendar. It seems we are close to racing in Africa. The last F1 race there was in 1993. Hamilton wants to race on the continent before he retires. However, there are costs to introducing a new race as early as 2026. The existence of legendary tracks is a primary concern. There are worries for tracks like Spa, Monza, and Suzuka. Many cities want to host F1 street circuits, a trend that is growing. Rwanda is in advanced talks to add a race to the 2026 calendar. Domenicali said it's important that the country and continent feel welcoming to the sport and fans. He elaborated, "We want to go to Africa, but we need the right investment and plan. Rwanda is a serious contender. They've presented a good plan, and we have a meeting with them at the end of September. It will be on a permanent track. With 24 races, that number will be stable. We can tune the ones we are discussing for the future. I don't see big changes in the short term. but we need to discuss 2026, 2027, and 2028. Apart from Rwanda, F1 held talks with Thailand. Bangkok is open to redesigning the original street circuit to please fans and drivers. But with Madrid arriving in 2026 and Barcelona under threat, will we race on 24 or 25 venues in 2026? If another circuit is added, we may see drivers like Alonso retire early, or Verstappen move to another racing category. They have shared their views on a growing, unhealthy, and unsustainable calendar. These changes are interesting to discuss in F1 circles. But the sport must keep its principles. It should never abandon them for money or sponsorships. However, with recent years, it seems that ship has sailed. Now we watch as organizers try to attract more money to the championship. This is hurting drivers' wishes to stay with their teams longer. It's increasing their salaries and giving teams more financial help from new companies and investors. This proves that not everything revolves around money in Formula One. With all this in mind, do you think the new changes will improve the sport? Let us know in the comments below. After that, watch the video on your screen now.